Hello to everyone joining us right now. We're going to wait a few minutes and let other people trickle in, and then we'll get started right at 6. All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Money Matters information session. My name's Hannah. I'm a post-secondary recruiter here at SAIT. I want to thank you all for taking the time to join us tonight. So tonight we'll have a short presentation, and at the end of that, we're going to be having a Q&A period. So if you have any questions for subject matter experts tonight, that will be your chance to ask them. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge that SAIT is located on the traditional territories of the Niitsitapi, Blackfoot, and the people of Treaty 7, which include the Siksika, the Piikani, the Kainai, and the Tsuut'ina, as well as the Erie Nakota of Bearspaw, Chiniki, and Goodstoney. We are situated in an area the Blackfoot tribes traditionally called Mohkinstsis, where the Bow River meets the Elbow River. We now call it the city of Calgary, which is also home to the Métis Nation Region 3. As we're all joining virtually tonight, I do want to put a few reminders and housekeeping out to our attendees. As you may have noticed, your video and your microphone is currently disabled. It will stay so for the rest of our session. So if you do have questions, we're going to ask you to use the Q&A function on your Zoom toolbar, just at the bottom there. That will allow us to answer your questions as they come through. If you do have a question that somebody else has, we ask that you upvote it instead of asking the same question, because we will get to all questions that we get. So tonight we're joined by our subject matter experts. We have Sydney Lee from our financial advising team and Cindy Letick from Student Awards. I'm now going to pass it on to them to get our presentation started.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Sydney, and I work in the financial advising office at SAIT. Just to start off, I would like if you could put in the chat box at the bottom, on a scale of 1 to 3, how would you rate your knowledge of the various funding options offered in attending SAIT right now? Perfect. Okay, I'm just going to move on. And I will ask the same question at the end, just to see if we've covered everything. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is Alberta Student Aid, the Canada Apprentice Loan, Foundational Learning Assistance Program, Student Awards, and Learn Smart. All right, so Student Aid Alberta. Okay, Student Aid Alberta is a government loan and grant program provided by the Government of Alberta and Canada. In order to apply for this, you have to be a Canadian citizen, a permanent resident, or a protected person. You have to have lived in Alberta at least 12 consecutive months, without being a full-time student. In order to apply for this, you have to be enrolled in at least 60% of a full-time course load. Here at SAIT, that means 9 credits per semester, and have financial need. Student aid applications open in June for each year. The current application that's open is for September last year until August of this year. So right now the application is only open for the May term. If you're looking at applying in the fall for student loans, the application usually opens in June, sometimes July. and it currently takes about 45 days processing time, so we suggest you apply early. That little thing at the bottom there, it brings you right to the Student Aid Alberta website, which we can also put in the chat at the end. All right, so there's two different applications when you are applying for student loans. There's a full-time application and a part-time application. So a full-time application is completed online. It provides you some living expenses while you're in school, and you usually have to take at least 9 credits or more, which is usually 3 classes. There's a part-time application that you complete. It is on paper. You do not receive any living expenses. It's only tuition and books, and then it's for anything that's less than the 9 credits. So 6, there are some 7.5. What you need to apply, so you need a social insurance number. You will need to have filed your income tax from the previous year. You will need your total expected reduced income for the current year. And then one thing to note is it always applies you to everything in one application, loans and grants. All right, loan limits are based off of the length of your program, not the cost of your program. So a lot of programs at SAIT range between 5 and 9 months. So if it's a diploma program, it would be 2 applications you would need to complete, equaling 9 months long or 8 months long, sorry, with a loan maximum of $17,000. This is dependent on how many terms you submit in an application as well. And now I'll explain a bit more after. All right, so understanding grants. Grants is free money that is provided by the government. You do have to claim it on your income tax, and it's based off of your income. So right now, the student loan application that's open is open for September from last year until August. It's still requiring 2022 income tax. And then you can report if your income is reduced from 2023. So they will base the grants off of whatever income was lower. So you just have to know like the one that's been filed and then the estimated income. So how grants work is they're on a sliding scale based off of your family size. So if your family is 1, just you, and your income was below the 35,000, you could receive a full grant. If it's in between the income threshold and the grant cutoff, you would get a portion. And then if it's above the grant cutoff, then you unfortunately wouldn't qualify for a grant. All right, there's a few grants that the government provides. There's an Alberta grant and then there's a Canada grant. The only difference is the Alberta grant is for apprenticeship programs or programs that are 1 year or less. And it's $475 per month. The Canada student grant is for full-time students that are in a program that's more than 1 year, and it's $525 per month. And then there is a Canada student grant for students with dependents. So if you have any children under the age of 12, you can receive $280 per dependent per month of studies. All right, so while you're in school, there is no interest on your loans. Nothing happens to it until after you've completed your entire program or you've stepped out of your program for at least 6 months. So while you're in school, nothing happens, no interest. After you've finished, 6 months after, you have to start making your payments back to the Canada loan, and there's no interest at all ever on the Canada loan, even in repayment. And then on the Alberta loan, you don't have to make payments for 12 months after completing, but it will be, interest will be prime at the time of repayment. Alrighty, Canada Apprentice Loans. So this would be if you are planning an apprenticeship. You can also apply for the Alberta student loan I just mentioned, but you don't actually receive any federal money in that application because it's separate. So Canada Apprentice Loan, you have to be registered in the Red Silk Trade, block release technical training. That basically just means you're attending Monday to Friday full time, and then you've been released from work to attend school. You have to pass a credit check, and then you have to be a citizen, permanent resident, or a protected person. What it is it's also a loan. It's up to $4,000. You can request the amount that you want to receive. And then it works the same as Alberta student aid. And the Canada portion there is that it also has no interest and you don't have to make payments for 6 months or until after you've done your apprenticeship program. In order to apply for it, you apply online. That is the fastest and simplest way to apply. You apply through your My Service Canada account. Your first application takes about 2 weeks for the entire process from applying to receiving, because they have to do a SIN check, a credit check, and then a confirmation that you are registered at SAIT in the program. And then you would receive the funds after that. Repayment. So repayment works the same. You have to complete your Red Seal trade, or you are no longer considered an apprentice, or you've reached your lifetime maximum of 6 years of interest-free status, or you're no longer confirmed by your apprenticeship end date. That just basically means that you aren't attending school each year, which is what you're required to do. Okay, foundational learning. Foundational learning is a grant program that is only for academic upgrading and English language training. It can be full-time or part-time depending on the amount of classes that you're taking. It helps students cover tuition, books, and living expenses is only with the full-time application. Part-time only receives tuition and books. And this funding is based off of your specific situation. Eligibility. So in order to apply for this, you have to be living in Alberta. You have to have a valid driver's license or identification card, and you have to have a valid or a verified alberta.ca account. You have to be a citizen, permanent resident, or a refugee. If you're a refugee, you have to have a study and work permit and a notice of decision. So there's full-time and part-time options available with this as well. If you're looking at applying for full-time funding, you cannot be working more than 20 hours a week. How to apply. All right, so you have to have the verified myalberta.ca account. You have to have applied to your program and paid the tuition deposit. Funding decisions can take up to 7 business days, and these are done through foundational learning, not through SAIT. We actually just started taking applications for our new funding year. So if you check out the SAIT website and search foundational learning, it will have the new application procedure on there. All right, scholarships and awards, I'll pass on to Cindy.
All right, thank you so much for joining us this evening. So again, my name is Cindy and I'm with the Student Awards team and Alumni Engagement team. So I'm the person you'd reach out to if you had any questions about Student Awards or alumni perks, etc. So let's get to it. Okay, so currently we give out over $6 million a year in student awards and scholarships, and that comes out to over $6 million, and it's basically split half and half. So over 4,800, half coming from SAIT donors, and then the other half from government funded awards. And so in order to be considered, you have to be a full-time student, whether you're domestic or international, so 9 credits or more per semester in a program. And there are some awards and scholarships for part-time students, but right now we're sitting at under 5. So if you need more information about that, you can certainly reach out to me and I can help you out with that. But let's see here. So you would just have to apply through your MySAIT. The biggest thing is that you have to be accepted into a program. You have to have paid your tuition deposit and registered for your courses. And once you've done that, you can go ahead and apply. So big thing is always apply as early as possible. We have a bunch of different deadlines. So the earlier you get your application in, the more awards and scholarships you can be considered for throughout the academic year. The nice part of it too is if you have any questions, you can get those sorted out earlier too, so you don't miss a deadline. And again, the more opportunities you have, the better chances you have to be selected. So this says winter entrance, but we're now entering the spring. So if you were starting your courses in May, The application for spring entrance awards will open by next Monday, and they stay open until April 15th. So the big thing is you want to make sure that you've registered for your courses for the spring term. And once you've done that, the application will be accessible in your MyState account. And any questions that you have regarding that, you can send an email to me at scholarships@sait.ca. And the same thing goes for if you're starting next year in the fall. If you want more information, you can also send me an email. That way I can give you dates based on when your starting date is. Okay, so the types of award categories that we have currently. So we have general awards. Those are awards that aren't tied to a program or a school. So anybody who meets the requirements can apply for those as long as they apply before the specific award or scholarship deadline. Program-specific awards are awards that are designated to a specific school or a particular program. So as an example, the award is for someone who's taking the business administration diploma. So that would be a program specific award. But in a more general, like a school specific award would be in like the School of Business. And entrance awards are the ones you apply for before you start your program, but once you've already registered for your courses. So you can only apply for those once. Just before you start your actual program or apprenticeship, etc. Apprentice awards are specifically for those who are taking an apprenticeship. Again, they have about the same deadlines. They are not allowed to apply for entrance awards. Those are just for credit students. But the apprentice awards works the same as the general awards application. As long as you're full-time, you can go ahead and apply. Same thing, apply as early as possible. Athletic awards are for students who are part of the SAIT Trojans. So if you get involved in sports here at SAIT while you're taking your coursework, most of those awards are nomination based through an instructor or school or a coach. So just keep that in mind. Government awards, as I mentioned before, those are funded and distributed through the government of Alberta. If you need more information about that, you can certainly reach out to me. So next steps is, if you haven't already, choose your program and apply for that program. And then once you've been accepted and you've paid your tuition deposit and registered for your courses, you're good to go. And you can go ahead and apply for the appropriate academic year. And so before we move on here, I just want to say, if you do have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box or reach out to me if you need more information. I'm always willing to meet with students one-on-one, whether it's virtually, in person, or over the phone. And I do sessions in person where we go over the entire application just to make sure that I can iron out any details that'll make the experience easier for you. So I will pass it back to Sydney.
Perfect. Alrighty, so LearnSmart. LearnSmart is a registered education savings plan for students born after 2004. It's a government grant that's put into an RESP by the government. You don't have to make any donations. Anyway, yeah, you don't have to put any money into the account. And the government will actually give you the first $500. The first year a student qualifies based off of their family income, and then they receive $100 for every year after that, up to $2,000. It's based off of family income each year for anyone born 2004 or later. All right, what an RESP is it's only used for post-secondary purposes. You don't have to make any deposits into the account or any contributions. And the learning bond is what's providing that additional money to you in the RESP if you qualify based off of family income and you were born 2004 or later. All right, and to apply for that, you just go to this lovely website right here. You can also Google LearnSmart, and it'll bring you right to the page. Alrighty, so to recap, same question as I asked before, but now how do you feel your knowledge is of the various funding options offered at SAIT? So if you could pop that into the chat. that would be great. And then if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A and we will go through them.
Awesome. Thank you both for that presentation. We do have a few questions in our chat. The first is, can somebody apply to more than one award?
Absolutely. You can apply for as many awards and scholarships as you like, as long as you meet the basic requirements. And if you do, and it's before the deadline, absolutely, the more the better, always.
This comes, I believe, from an international student. They're wondering if it is the case that the awards that are currently appearing in their MyState account are the only awards that they're eligible for, because they say right now they don't see all the options available on the state website in their own MyState.
Okay, and are you a current student? Can you respond in the box there?
Once that comes through, I will let you know. They're on winter break, so I think they're
Okay.
taking a pause in their studies.
Okay, so if you're returning in the spring, then the application will show correctly. So if you're not registered in any courses this term, whether it's a break or not, what happens is you won't be able to access the application in its full form. So that's why you might not see, that might be one of the reasons why you might not see all of the awards and scholarships listed in the credit awards section. So once you are registered for your spring term courses, and if you still see that that there are scholarships and awards that are missing, please reach out to me and we can try to dig a little deeper to see why that issue is occurring.
Awesome. We do have one more question, but I am going to ask Rodrigo for a bit more information. He's wondering if Architectural Technologies College fall under any of these programs. If you could just let us know what programs you mean, and if you mean what awards it falls under. And then we should be able to get to your question. And then a follow-up to that last question you just answered regarding awards. This student has said that they have registered already, but have not yet paid their tuition.
Okay, so once they've paid their tuition, they've registered for their courses but not paid their tuition deposit. Because if they don't need to pay their tuition, just the deposit. So if they're a continuing student, if you're a continuing student, it should show. Now, the other reason why it might not show is because there's a lot of awards and scholarships that don't require additional steps. So the only awards and scholarships you'll see in that credit awards section that appear as links are awards and scholarships that require an additional step. That might be writing an essay, or answering an additional question, or submitting documentation. If it doesn't show there, that means that as long as you meet the requirements and you submit the application before the deadline, you'll automatically be considered for those. So that might be the case there. But you can send me an email if you have any specific awards you want more information about.
Thank you. If there's any more questions, please pop them into the Q&A function for us here and we will get to them.
And just another thing here, if you want to throw this into the chat, Hannah, the scholarships directory is super handy when it comes to searching to see what awards and scholarships are available for full-time students, regardless of what program they're in. They have multiple filters in there, so you can type in the program name or any of the types of criteria we have to see what's available. So if that's what Rodrigo was asking about, the Architectural Technologies program, then you can certainly type in that program name and see what comes up there. So those would be for program or school specific awards. And then you can type in something as an example, financial need. It'll show you all of the awards and scholarships that have that as part of the requirement, and you just go from there.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like that's exactly what Rodrigo was wondering, is if their program qualifies them for any awards. So they should be able to check that scholarship directory that I've put in the chat for you there. And then we have somebody wondering, they missed it when the application deadline for awards is. I believe.
Okay, so for it, so there's varying deadlines. So it just depends. If they haven't started their coursework yet, they can send me an email with the information about their intake, unless they want to mention it right now. Then with regards to all of the other deadlines, it varies. So we have ones that start in September and then monthly until the academic year ends. The only thing with that is as we move further down the academic year, there are less and less awards and scholarships available. So it's always best to apply as early as possible.
Thank you. If you have any more questions from our attendees, please just throw it in the Q&A button there. And not look like we have any more questions. I'll leave it open for about 30 more seconds. As well, as a reminder, you will not have access to this chat after our webinar ends. So if there is any links or emails you would like to save, please do so. And then we might finish up if there's no more questions. All right, doesn't look like anything else is coming through. So this is going to bring us to the end of our session here. As mentioned, if you do have any additional questions, you can contact those two emails that are currently on the screen. Thank you all for attending tonight, and thank you, Cindy and Sydney, for your time. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day or night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. Bye.